First, talk about the level and how much faster it gets and how much you have to think when you jump from college to the pro game.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a huge jump, just to put it frank. I mean it's from playing in the Big Ten where it's a very, it's not always the prettiest soccer. It's hard nosed, guys battling for their life, to the pros where it's like everybody is just good on the ball. They're strong, they're fast. It's a very physical league. It's very, guys are just rapid. They're so good on the ball. Their decision making is so much quicker than it is in college. I think that's the biggest thing is,
Yeah.
if you're for example, I started playing some right back in preseason my first year at the Fire.
Oh, wow.
And one thing I noticed in just some of the preseason games was, in college, and I think in the PDLs, I played some right back too. And it was easy because I could rely on some athleticism and,
Mhm.
positionally, I was, even if you're not perfect, you can usually recover. But when I started doing it with the Fire, I remember I would sit down with Logan Paws after all of our preseason games and watch all my touches, go over it with him. And for those from Chicago, obviously Chicago legend. But like you turn your head for half a second, and the guy is darting behind you,
Yeah.
perfectly timed.
Yeah.
So just the margin for error is so small in the pros. If
Mhm.
you make a mistake, if you make a square pass that gets turned over, most of the time you're getting punished for it. So I think that was the big change. And for me, it's actually funny. This is the story I was referencing. So me and Drew Connor, who also signed with the Fire, we grew up together. Great guy. I was just at my wedding. But he was at Wisconsin. I was at Northwestern, and we were the two guys from our class that were, I think we're talked about as homegrowns, and we actually had the same agent coming out of college.
Okay.
And me and him, after our senior season was over, we were on the phone every day, calling each other like twice, like, "Hey, have you heard anything from the Fire?" They had fired their head coach. They were bringing in the new coach that they hired, Pano. We didn't know anything about him. We didn't, we were like, we don't know if they're still looking at us. So we
Mhm.
we for like a month, we were talking every day on the phone. And then the day that we both got sent our homegrown contracts, we didn't talk for like a week because we didn't know if the other guy got offered a contract as well. And we didn't want to bring it up. So we just eventually called each other and were like, "Hey, did you get it?" And he's like, "Yep." And so we went nuts. But that moment was so cool. And then it's just relying on what got you to that point where it's, I was like, I'm going to show up to preseason and be more prepared than anybody else there, physically, technically, all of it. So, we were hitting it hard before that preseason. And when we got there, I think that the coaches were probably a little surprised because,
Mhm.
usually homegrowns, you probably loan them out. You don't expect much.
Yeah. Yep.
I was fortunate to kind of like show up ready to go. I think I scored a couple goals in preseason. So, maybe if their plan had been to loan me out initially, maybe it was swayed by preseason a little bit. And then we got into the season and, I wasn't starting consistently. I started a few games, but I was coming off the bench, and it was the same thing where you just need to find a way to add value to the team and find your role and do it better than anybody else. So
Yep.
for me, I think that a big part of it was adaptability. And, I was playing winger, I was playing withdrawn striker, I was playing up top and playing different formations and different positions. So it was good for me from a learning perspective because, like I
Mhm.
said, I was learning right back at the professional level. I was learning all these different positions on the field and just kind of being a utility knife and fitting in where they needed. So it worked.